our pelvic limbs. So we start with our
Ilium.
pelvis, right? Our pelvis is made up of
3 bones.
it's actually 6 bones, right? Because there's 2 sides.
Yes.
So it's really 3 bones, but there's 3 on each side. And they are fused where? Pubic symphysis, okay, which is what kind of joint? Cartilaginous. Okay. All right, so first part is the ilium, right? So this is the wings of the ilium. Then the back side, the most coral aspects are going to be the ischium, and the floor is the pubis. Okay, what are the big holes called? Obturator foramen. Okay. The pin bones, the points, the swirls where we see, and the butts, what process is that? It is the ischium, but what is the process? Ischial tuberosity. Okay. And then the wings of the ilium. Obviously on a cow, we would have exaggerated wings, right? So they have the tuber sacrali and the tuber coxae, right? So it's the point of the hip, part that I said you can kind of grab onto and hold onto. You don't need to know that for these because they have smooth wings on dogs and cats. Okay, then where all of these bones fused up in this kind of concave area, that is known as the acetabulum. So that is making up the socket of the ball and socket joint for the hip. All right, so what's making up the ball portion? The head of the femur. Great. So femur, what's this one? Patella, right? That's your kneecap. That's the largest sesamoid body in the body, in the largest sesamoid bone in the body. Then you have your tibia and your fibula and your tarsus, hock, your metatarsus, and your phalanges or digits. Okay, so now coming back up to our femur friend. So we said the one that makes up the ball portion of our ball and socket joint for our hip is our head of our femur. What about the point? The greater trochanter, okay? As opposed to the point of the shoulder, which is the greater tubercle of the humerus. So greater tubercle of the humerus, greater trochanter of the femur. Okay, then we come down and we have, what's this groove called? Trochlear groove, and that's where the patella is going to sit. Then we have what processes on the distal aspect of the femur? The condyles. Okay, we do have medial and lateral epicondyles. Then we have our tibia, and what is the processes on the proximal aspect of the tibia? Condyles. Remember I said it's the only joint where you're going to have condyles articulating with condyles. Okay? So this is the, what process? What bone is this?
Tibia.
So it's the tibial tuberosity. Okay, this is going to be where the patella tendon attaches to. And then that ridge is still that's coming down is known as the tibial crest. Okay. Then we go down to the distal aspect, and again we have our condyles, and then we have our, specifically our medial epicondyle, and that's going to be known as what? So the bone on your ankle that everybody always hits.
Bone.
Medial malleolus, remember? This one that I said when you hit, this is your lateral malleolus, right? The bumpy bone. Okay. So then off of your fibula, really only important part is that lateral malleolus. Okay, medial malleolus, lateral malleolus. That's making up your points of your ankles. Okay, then we got into our tarsus. Okay, so how many rows for our tarsus? It's like 2, but there's the overlapping row, right? So the big guy is the calcaneus, or your fibular tarsal bone. The one on the medial aspect under your tibia is your tibia. If this is your fibular tarsal bone, because it's under your fibula, tibular tarsal bone, otherwise known as your talus. Okay, remember it's got that weird like shell shape to it. So your talus and your calcaneus. Then underneath your calcaneus, that's going to take up kind of 2 rows. That's your
tarsus. Oh.
Let's draw it out. Okay. So we got our calcaneus and our talus. Then underneath the talus, we had our central tarsal bone. Okay. So it's kind of 2 rows, but it's overlapped. So we have our talus, our calcaneus, our central, and then our distal row is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th tarsal bone is that kind of big guy that's taken up two rows. Okay, right? Because our distal row, we're going to do the same thing like we did in our distal row on our carpus. We're going to number them 1 through 4, starting from the medial aspect. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is this big dude right here. And then the central is the one that's going to be in between that, like it's like that intermediate row. So our distal row, and then it's beneath your talus. Okay? And then for our rear feet, what do we need to know about our metatarsals? 2 through 5, right? There really isn't supposed to be dew claws on the back feet, even though some dogs will have those as well. So 2, 3, 4, 5, know what bone it is, know what number it is. And then again, same thing like the front, your phalanges or your digits. This is digit 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the proximal phalange, or P1 of digit 2. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that is your bones.